Hello, whoa, internet friends. My name is Bay. Welcome back to the Shadowlands Alpha First Pass, First Impressions coverage. It's Marksman Hunter time. Marksmanship Hunter. What do you call it besides Hunter? Today, oh boy, I wish I had good news. Now, in the previous video, of course, we had a little fun memeing a bit with survival, but survival has some hooks, different rotational things, builds that work, even beast mastery. The video before that also feels pretty beast mastery-y. Marksman is it's just ever since everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked, and by Fire Nation I mean Legion, marksmanship hunters just haven't really worked. So of course, if you want to go through the very long VOD or watch the dungeon run footage where we tested out some things, Wordup was there. He tried a different build. I tried a different build. We compared logs afterwards. The Warcraft logs are also linked down below with the VOD links for the dungeon and the testing VOD itself. It is a very long video. You can scrub around, of course, and check it out if you'd like, but we went through a bunch of stuff. There was also quite a bit of a heated, ranty, discussionary argument point somewhere midway through, and we kind of got overall stuff talked about, but not just marksmanship hunter, but a lot of it was focused on marksman, so those are linked down below. You will also find links to all of my relevant social medias, of course, and if you would like to keep up with when videos go live, when streams go live, if you partake in these social medias for Twitter, that is linked down there, as well as if you would like to join my Discord server, where you can reach out to me. Anyone can join the Discord server, but subs and patrons have a little bit extra channels to communicate with, share the memes, and such. But anyone can join either of those if you'd like to keep up to date with the content, the coverage, when the feedback cycle starts here in mid to late June, and whatever else you'd like. So, we're taking a nap underneath this tree, having a bit of a relaxing moment, because I don't know how else to say this. Marksman Hunter plays. It works. If you've been playing Marksman for a while, you also know it does that. It might never do all the damage on top of it all, but because there's supposed to be one build that essentially works for everything, but there are these huge pitfalls. However, a whole bunch of new things are returning to you. Let's go through them right now. So, Eyes of the Beast is returning. Currently, it's not yet implemented, so we can't test it out, but it would be Eyes of the Beast where you get to control your pet and run around like a Eye of Gul'dan kind of thing, or Eye of Kilrog rather, whatever it's called. Hunter's Mark has returned. It is a 0.75 second GCD where you Hunter's Mark a target. They take 5% more damage from you. You can then always track them and see them through stealth. You can always see them, as it says there. You can only have one Hunter's Mark applied at any given time. So where's that owl flying around over here? Yeah, get Hunter's Marked. Haha! It is a magic effect, and it can be dispelled by healers, as you would imagine. Magic effects being dispelled. It does go through Shadow Meld. It goes through Stealth. It goes through Vanish. If a rogue cloaks, of course, first, which would dispel themselves, then it would take off the Hunter's Mark. But a little bit extra damage, a little bit of a skill cap. It's not... you cast it before you go into combat with big bosses. If you pull mobs, there's like a mob you're going to focus target. It's going to be a weird extra little bit if it even makes it out of this process, but we'll see. Scare Beast has come back. Works on bear, travel, and cat druid forms and any other beast you'd imagine to fear them. Also, Tranquilizing Shot has also returned. I gotta put my bow back on. Tranquilizing Shot is now baseline, which means Spirit Shock on Spirit Beast is gone. You can't use Spirit Beasts as a marksman hunter. You also don't usually use a pet because you're using Lone Wolf all the time. So now Tranquilizing Shot is baseline, removes 1 enrage and 1 magic effect on a 10-second cooldown. It is, of course, on the GCD because it's an ability that removes things, so you have to put it on the global, and it does what it does. It will remove one magic and one enrage if both are present. There's a couple of things we've seen flagged in the dungeon footage. Wordup and I have both noticed that there's an enrage effect that says enrage on some of the misty centauri goat boys inside the Mists of Tirna dungeon, that we couldn't remove both their enrage and their absorb shield. It only removed one, but it does say and, so shrug. Additionally, kill shot has also returned to the hunter. It's a 10-second cooldown, 10 focus, under 20% execute, and all hunters can use this. In the survival video before this, of course, I went over that it requires you to use a two-handed weapon. But in that video, I also talk about how there is a potential for it to be a fully ranged build. That's not true. We also double-checked today, and of course, I'll update this in the overall hunter video. Auto-attacking as marksman and BM is a full set amount of damage. If you auto-attack as survival, it's half damage. And then, of course, the locking yourself to swapping GCs to even use kill shot, not necessarily something you're going to be doing. Another note on your tranquilizing shot, it can remove warriors, berserkers rage, and the enrage effect, but doesn't remove things like enrage regeneration. The default UI shows when things can be removed. It has a little yellow highlighting square around it, so you'll see that there. Also, baseline for you is going to be binding shot. This is a core rotational CC-ish thing that you can use as marksman now. It's still a talent for the other 2 hunter specs. You do have a new talent in here that syncs up with it called Binding Shackles. Targets rooted by Binding Shot will deal 20% less damage to you, the hunter, for 8 seconds after the root effect ends. I thought this was way better when I first saw it in the database until I read it multiple times to make sure, and Wordup confirmed. It only works against you. You can't use it as sort of a tankish cooldown to help CC and root mobs, and then they deal less damage to the tank. That does not work. It only reduces damage done to you, which is so incredibly niche. I don't know when you'll really ever use it other than maybe PvP. But it's there. You don't have a pet to add that extra bit of, utility and safety for you. So there's that. Also, you can see that I currently have Primal Rage as my pet ability right now. That doesn't work. I tried to see if they updated things for Marksman where you could have a pet out and then the one you dismiss is the family ability you get. Nope, not the case. You still have a default tenacity for survival of the fittest, but my pet's dead, so hold on a second. There we go. Pet Revive is a 6-second cast now. But by default, you always have, there it is, Survival of the Fittest comes back up as your Lone Wolf ability. Which I don't know, yeah, there it goes. Lone Wolf ability right there. Now, you also, up here in the corner, Lone Wolf still has the slow stacking to it. It doesn't just snap back up to your 10% damage amp, which is also a big sigh. I don't know why that's not a thing, or why doesn't this go like, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 after your pet goes away? Because if you have to pet weave and dismiss your pet, you're then also penalized more for bringing in the utility, like, popping Lust on the pole and then dismissing your pet and then going to town. It still takes it like 30 seconds to stack back up because it takes a while after your pet goes away, and then it takes 20 seconds to stack to 10%. I don't know. I have no idea. A positive in this slew of nonsense, however, is your focus regeneration. As I cast Volley on myself, your focus regeneration for Marksman baseline is up to 5 per second instead of 3 per second. And Blizzard has noted that there will be a stable size increase coming for the Hunter, which will result in, apparently, it's going to be 20 slots or 2 pages. How did he melee from me that far away? Are you kidding? Little kill shot action. Doink. There it is. But still have this cliff here, so we can run up over here to the target dummies and have the ability to swap our talents around. A couple more baseline pieces. There is the pet failing side note, of course, that I went over this more in the survival and beast mastery video, but obviously have WoW Petopia as a bookmark if you don't already. for any more hunter pet changes. Not as relevant, of course, to you, the lone wolf hunter in this regard, but you never know. You can still play all specs of hunter and want to still go out there and, you know, tame. I almost said trap, but they're not Pokemon. You tame them. They become your birdies or indentured servants for life until you dismiss them when they die, apparently. They just delete it from the code. But let's also go back here. The Marksman Hunter aura in BFA right now is minus 6%. That is now zeroed out in Shadowlands. I was alerted to the fact that that's not necessarily a direct 6% damage buff, but for all intents and purposes here, to not get too much in all the mathy nonsense, it's zeroed and not minus 6. So everything is a little bit stronger, but nothing was directly buffed, which also leads me into AoE caps. So multi-shot, which is 5. It says 51 or like 5i. It's 5 targets for the multi-shot cap. Multi-shot cap. Trick shots is still plus 5 additional targets at half damage. And there are some AoE notes here that I kind of want to go over. That about the big part that we got into today, talking about Marksman, is how you will basically have a build, potentially the one that I'm currently sitting on, or this, or maybe this, but mostly this and this and this, that you'll almost set and forget the whole expansion potentially, which is super sad. One of the issues that came up here was how the core of the spec works. Obviously, so much is about aim shot. An aim shot, when you work things around aim shot, works just fine. It does big damage, hits really hard, is your only spell that locks you in place. Everything else, of course, is on the move. You do whatever you'd want to, and jump around, do huntery things, throw all your abilities. That's totally fine. But aim shot, your core damage, you just sit still, aim your shot, doink, right? The AoE discussion, the core baseline of how talents should work and what should be in the spec. There's more feedback, of course, on this in the description box. There is a huge report that Moofzy made of all the different things that just don't work or are broken or are bugged on the Hunter class, if you want to check that out. We got into a big discussion today, and I realized and recognized that there's we've talked about it on my show before, there's a pain point with Hunters and 2 target cleave, because your trick shots activates only at 3 or more targets. So hear me out. A little bit of just like armchair dev. This sort of has overarching ideas on what people think should happen or what should and shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. If you're looking at 2 targets, Serpent Sting, Explosive Shot, Chimera Shot, these are talents you can take to do something with those in that regard. In a way, Lethal Shot technically would give you more rapid fires, sort of, but you're spending focus to gain focus, but yuck. But that giving you more rapid fires allows you to make sure you have the focus to Serpent Sting, let's say 2 targets. Chimera Shot coming back here as a talent currently is also not hooked up to your mastery, so that doesn't even work properly yet. It also doesn't give you focus, which is in the focus line, so that's a totally different story. But you can spec for this, but in the core of the actual gameplay that you'll be normally seeing for your Marksmanship Hunter, you won't have any tools. And I realize we talked about this for a long time. So the armchair dev moment. What if Chimera Shot was baseline and it was free? So that was where you save focus, right? It's free, obviously works on 2 targets. But what if when it hit 2 targets, it would activate a different form of trick shot that allowed you to fire off a 2 target sort of explosive or detonating arcane shot on the 2 targets that were hit by the Chimera Shot. Something there. The other part of feedback that really got driven in today was that rapid fire just shouldn't exist. You already have steady shot. You already have things like steady focus that you really don't even use. And you already have an ability to give you back focus that synergizes with how everything on the Marksman Hunter is very much like single shot oriented. Rapid fire may look kind of cool, It has a neat like AoE component with trick shots, but does it really need to exist? We also talked about, well, what if? Sure. You had Chimera Shot baseline. What if Explosive Shot replaced Chimera Shot as a bigger version of this, which would still, of course, work with the trick shot component. If Explosive Shot hits 2 or more targets, it activates Trick Shot for Arcane Shot. Arcane Shot would then, you follow it up after the Explosive Shot to have basically 2 explosive-y kind of shots. The Trick Shot Arcane Shot could deal some additional AoE damage or just do the 2-target ricochet. But again, that's like a 2-targety thing. Explosive Shot's trade-off there is that it hits 6 enemies within 8 yards. And Explosive Shot was a staple for the Hunter class for a very long time. It has sort of returned to that form here, but a 30-second cooldown is also forever. And then let's take it one step further. What if if you took Explosive Shot, for example, and it's a long cooldown, what if whenever you activated what am I talking about here? The trick shots, there's so many shots, rapid fire shots, steady focus, precise shots. When you activated trick shots from your 3+ target, it reduces the cooldown of Explosive Shot, giving it a little bit more bigger AoE synergy. But of course, by itself, if it hits 2 or more, it gives you the Arcane Shot 2-target synergy. But it gives you control of if you're doing larger AoE packs at 3+ or just 2 targets. It gives you control over some ideas there. Barrage is 8 enemies each time you each like kind of wave pulse. But careful aim still exists, and it's so good. Double tap. The new Master Marksmanship is just 25% crit on aim shot. Like, huge duh. Careful aim, to clarify, of course, only works on each individual target. They have to either be above 80 or below 20. It doesn't matter what the first target is hit with that aim shot. The damage is per target. Each, of course, other target, if they're below 20% health, would gain the additional damage. But of course, it's also cut in half per target, because how trick shots literally works, where it's half damage for those ricochet shots. Because by default, all you're doing all the time is almost the exact same rotation, regardless of if you're doing single target or AoE. Nothing sort of wiggles you in different directions. So the suggestions I'm putting forward here are options to have wiggle in different directions. Have at least a baseline choice for 2 targets, which may not be very strong, but it's something you interact with. And then, of course, your core, which you can specialize even more in, doing more AoE damage with Barrage if it didn't pull things through walls. Yikes. Have Explosive Shot be sort of your bigger, you could pull it down in cooldown to have some more like punchy AoE here and there in the rotation that could sync up with the fact that you're hitting a multi-shot, aim shot for a ricochet, but that multi-shot pulls Explosive Shot's cooldown down. What if Serpent Sting? Put it down here in the AoE row. What if Serpent Sting would also use trick shots? And if you activated trick shots with multi-shot, you got to AoE Serpent Sting. Similar to how the Survival Hunter can do that with a talent of theirs. Because there's so much here that it's going to buff aim shot, and all you're going to care about is aim shot buffing. And that's a weird one. The only thing in here that isn't target capped for any of your AoE is the new Volley. The new Volley gives you trick shots for as long as Volley is active. We did a bunch of testing of this, and a whole bunch of turnips were sacrificed to the Volley Lords during the actual testing VOD. There's no damage fall off on Volley. It ticks twice a second for 6 seconds. Currently, the animation, however, is playing for double the duration. It's playing for a full, you'll see the damage stop here. Still going. Volley is crazy powerful. It has a neat haste hook where the faster you can cast either rapid fire via haste, pulling it down during, say, AoE plus Lust, for example, or True Shot with your aim shot into Volley windows, you can definitely get off 3 aim shots with enough haste during that 6-second window, or you can get off 1 aim shot into a rapid fire. The one thing about this that is very much like a window of hasted time that is a bit of a gameplay hook and a skill cap for planning out your rotation is that when you volley, this works on any targets. You get trick shots onto targets because it just activates. The problem here is that the moment the 6-second volley ends, if a aim shot has left your bow, it will not trick shot. If a aim shot is currently trick shotting, it will stop trick shotting. If you are rapid fire channeling, it will stop ricocheting. It just cuts it right off. There's no snapshot window where you volley and then it's got 1 second left, so you start your rapid fire and it keeps going and going and going. No, it just ends. But it's the only thing that allows you to do anything on 2 targets, because when you activate volley, you can then hit aim shot, and they'll both hit both targets. But again, every spec should have a weakness. Well, I understand that you should be able to at least answer every type of damage in the game. And we talked about that for a long time on the stream today, so I'll move on from that. Let me know what you think down below. Obviously, plenty of feedback for the Marksman Hunter, but that one in particular has definitely been a sticky point for some time. So your talents that were removed here were Hunter's Mark, obviously, Piercing Shot, because and Binding Shot, because it's baseline, and you have the new Binding Shackles here. So I just went over Volley, of course. It's really fun. A lot of damage. Pretty great talent. Lock and Load, in this case, is just super inconsistent, but it also takes a while for you to scale if you have enough haste to auto attack fast enough. It's like the Art of War for Ret Pallies now, where it's just a pure auto attack modifier. And calling the shots will still be good, but calling the shots has a problem with the new Deadeye talent. So this is that Kill Shot has 2 charges. That's good, sure. Normally it has a 10-second cooldown before you can use more kill shots, so having 2 charges seems like a good idea. For certain situations, it gives you 50% faster recharge for aimed shot. It basically gives you the true shot recharge outside of the true shot window. But if you're in the true shot window, it's way overkill because you physically cannot cast the spell because you don't have focus. So it feels great outside of the window because you can kill shot into a aim shot, into a kill shot, into an aim shot, and then it doesn't stack up the cooldown reduction. It just refreshes that 3-second window where it cools down essentially 50% faster, right? The fun part about that is it keeps you guaranteed to have a back and forth, because then when you bounce off to, say, hit some steady shots in this case, or hit a rapid fire to get your focus back, normally your first aim shot will be back kind of close, but with that 50% recharge at the end there, it'll be ready for you. And then your kill shots back up from your 2 charges. Once you use your first one, it starts charging, it starts cooling down a charge. And then you can get that kill shot, aim shot, aim shot combo again. You do, of course, kind of yeet your precise shots bonus, potentially, because you want to make sure you have the focus for kill shots and aim shots instead. And arcane shots damage is fine, but over the course of an execute phase on a fight, you probably want to make sure you're hitting your 2 heaviest hitting abilities, especially if you're in the careful aim window on top of that, which again makes barrage and explosive shot kind of meh. I will say in the dungeon, explosive shot did a lot of damage on AoE trash packs, which is fine, but once you get to bosses, if you're not all spec'd into everything aim shot, it's just not as strong, which is part of the niche. You are this archer, this sniper. Your mastery, of course, sniper training hasn't changed. It's the same. It just doesn't hooked up with Chimera Shot, of course. That there is, you could spec away from what you're good at, but then when you do so, you're just hampering yourself. And that is the weird part about how Marksman overall feels to play. Also, having the aim shot window where you, again, I said before, where you ignore your arcane shots is a little funky. I'm not entirely sure if they're going to iterate upon that at all. I probably shouldn't have hit that, but I didn't have the focus anyway. I'm trying to see if I can get a lock and load proc right here. It's so rare. Oh, I got one. Doink. But, oh, 2? You're too kind to me, game. That's super rare. Good thing I'm recording. It's tough, right? It's tough because it's fun, and there are some AoE moments that Wordup was talking about. You combine things like double tap and volley in Careful Aim and Master Marksman on pull, you just absolutely, it is alpha numbers aside. Marksmanship Hunter blasts right now. It does so much damage, but it's the stacking components of these two together and double tap and volley. You put up double tap, you put down volley, and then you just on pull, you have Careful Aim window, aim shots that hits the entire pack, and each aim shot, despite the fact that the ricochet ones are doing less damage, do 50% more after the halfening, and then have 25% chance to crit. So those ones basically do full damage, and of course your main hit is the double shot here on the main target. You almost just delete mobs in the dungeon, which is fun, but double tap of course is still on that full GCD, which doesn't feel fun. Any other notes that I have here? That's about it. Nope, that's pretty much it. The long short of it is that certain things that don't work with aim shot don't work. Streamline is still here at 20% longer rapid fires, which isn't good. If it added, in this case, 20% more bolts inside the normal duration, that would of course keep scaling down with your haste, probably be way better. And again, not sure about how Chimera Shot's gonna fit in here if it doesn't have the Beast Mastery Hunter aura like string that it gives you 20 focus at 2 targets. But even then by itself, what does that do for Marksman? It gives you one button on a 15-second cooldown reduced by haste that does some damage to 2 targets, but then you're still just blasting 1 target because you can't activate trick shots. But before I talk in a circle, that's pretty much Marksman Hunter. It has a build that is incredibly strong. It has an extra bit of syncing up. The thing about Deadeye 2 is that you can have mouse over macros for sneaking in your kill shots on mobs in dungeons, or of course mobs during boss fights, to activate Deadeye before the execute window to give you more uptime, potentially more uptime based on your focus generation on your aim shots. So that's kind of a neat hook there, little mini game you can play. And of course, like I said, if you get lucky with lock and loads and you have enough haste that it works out well for you, you can have this crazy sync up where you sneak in your kill shots on regular mobs, and then if you get lock and load procs, you can just it helps you keep your aim shot charges full so that you can always have aim shots available to just gain a veto at whatever mobs you have available in front of you. But that's that. Check out the description box down below if you want to see the dungeon run, if you want to see what it is like in the run, and we're jibber-jabbing about it, and Wordup's playing a different build than I am, and we're kind of sussing things out, of course. Or if you want the entirely long-winded testing video, which has a whole lot of stuff that we dug into in that one. It was the longest session we've had so far. Or of course, if you want to know when videos go live and want to know when the testing continues, you can join my Discord server, link down below, or you can follow me over on Twitter at FinalBossTV to find out when videos go up, when the streams go up, when live shows are, when those come back in, whatever you'd like to follow me for. That is just over on the Twitterverse. My name has been Day. Thank you very much for watching and or listening, following along, giving your feedback. I will see you all in the wrap-up video, followed by Priests.